Hey friends, welcome to the very first episode of Chat with Nat, Conversations That Count. If you've been with me for a while, you know that for the last almost 18 months, I have had another podcast called Nickels and Dimes. And that podcast was created to share financial information and education out to the masses, to those of you listening, to give you tools and information that would help you make educated decisions about your and your family's financial future. And I've been so blessed this last year and a half to have amazing guests and to get incredible feedback from those of you listeners that have shared with me that the information benefited you, that it helped you think differently about your finances and how to move forward to accomplish your and your family's financial goals. And I'm incredibly grateful that I've been able to impact you in that way. This last few months, though, I felt really called in a different direction to step my podcast into this chat with Nat, where I talk about the 5 pillars of all of our lives: faith, family, finance, fitness, and yes, even fun. I want you to think of this new format as pulling up a chair, grabbing a cup of coffee, and having a great conversation with a good friend. So here we are. Let's jump into it. I want to start by doing a little bit of money talk. Of course, that's what I do. September is National Life Insurance Awareness Month, and I want to stop right here and challenge the way that we think about life insurance. Too often, people think it's just about death, writing a check to cover final expenses. But life insurance is all about life. It's about the life of your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, and even your business continuing without disruption. It's about providing resources to help take care of you while you're still living, in case you were to become disabled or face a serious medical diagnosis. Life insurance is one of the most powerful financial tools that we have to protect our income, to build wealth, and to create a legacy that lasts. Think about it. If you woke up tomorrow and your paycheck was gone, how would your family keep moving forward? Life insurance is the safety net that says, I've got you covered. It's not an expense, it's a strategy, and it's time for us to shift our way of thinking around it. This is a way to make sure that your dreams, your values, and your love keep showing up even when you can't. And this month is the perfect time to have that conversation. Now, let's jump into today's episode, which is all about the 5 pillars that Chat with Nat, Conversations That Count, is going to focus on. Each week, it might be a hard focus on one pillar or maybe a couple of pillars, but I want to go through all of them today and really speak to why they're important to me and why I think they're important to you as well. So why did I call it Conversations That Count? I mean, look, I'm in the financial business, so count, it's a little play on words, but also because these are the areas of our life that matter the most. These are the conversations that shape our lives. Not just a highlight reel, but the messy middle, the things we whisper about late at night, the things that keep us up at night, the stuff that actually matters. Each week, we're going to talk about one or more of the 5 pillars, as I mentioned: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And together, we'll explore what it means to live with purpose, balance. Well, maybe we'll call it harmony, because it's hard to ever truly find balance in every area of our lives. But I hope that we'll have a little bit, or maybe even a lot, of laughter along the way. So let's start with that first pillar, faith. For me, faith has always been an anchor. It doesn't mean I always get it right. It means I always know where to turn when life feels overwhelming. I think back to almost 7 years ago, the journey I was on after the upheaval of my personal life, really finding out who I was, but I was carrying a lot of pain, anger, confusion in that time of my life. And the best advice that I received from a friend was to give it to God, that when things feel too heavy to carry, to turn it over to Him. And if you've listened to my podcast before, you know that I absolutely believe in God and I have a relationship with Him. But faith is different for everybody. It doesn't always look the same. So, whatever that is for you, that place that you garner strength when the world around you seems to be crumbling, that's your faith. During that time, it was faith that gave me strength until the clouds parted a little bit. And then I thought, who am I and what do I want for my future? And so I went on a journey to figure that out, a personal growth journey that actually led me to the business I have today. It led me to retiring myself from corporate America and taking my time back so I could create the life of my dreams and show up for the people who are most important to me. And as you know, I'm a caretaker for my parents now. So when it comes to my faith, I think about when my mom fell about 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And it was 2021. She had to go to the emergency room. They did a CAT scan. And that was when my brother and I found out about our mom's dementia diagnosis. In that moment, everything changed. And it was faith that gave me the strength that when I wasn't sure how we were going to pull it all together, we were able to sit down and put together a plan that most of all honored our parents. So my brother and I talked through a lot of things. We talked with our parents through a lot of things. And that faith, I think, guided all of us to manage then and even now the best we could a situation that was really like flipping a pancake in our lives. And especially for me, because my parents live with me now. And they've been here. Last month was 3 years that they've been living with me. And I'm so grateful and blessed to have them here and to be able to serve them in a way that they served me for so many of my younger years. And honestly, all throughout my life. So when it comes to faith, let me ask you, where do you draw your strength from when life gets tough? As I mentioned, faith looks different for all of us, but every single one of us needs that foundation. Now on to family. Let's talk about it. If you're like me, family is both your greatest joy and your greatest responsibility. I'm part of what's called the sandwich generation. So I'm caring for my aging parents while also supporting my son who's 24, stepping into adulthood and figuring out what that looks like and creating budgets and making decisions for life and the direction he wants to go. Some days it feels like we're stretched in every direction, doesn't it? But here's what I've learned. We don't have to have it all figured out. Family is not about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about creating memories, holding space, and sometimes just surviving the day together. This weekend, my brother and sister-in-law were in town to visit my parents. I just took them about an hour ago and dropped them back off at the airport to head home. But we sat around and we talked. We went out on Saturday and played a game called bowling. If you never heard of it, it's bowling with a football. And it was a great time. So if you've never tried it and you have a place in your area, definitely go. It is a ton of fun and much more challenging than any of us thought it would be. But as we were playing that game, those of us who were able, my mom was sitting to the side in her wheelchair watching and laughing along with us. And after the second game, I thought, how can I include her in this? And so when we got to the final pin for the next 3 games, I pushed her wheelchair right up to the board, gave her the football, and she knocked down the last pin with one shot each of those last 3 games. And she threw her arms up in celebration while we all cheered. And gosh, it's a memory I'll never forget. Luckily, my son captured one of them in video, and I got some pictures another time. And I was able to share that on social media. And why do I do that? Because my family's story these days is not that different than so many others out there. And I want to show you that even in the midst of hardship, of carrying a heavy burden, of taking care of my elderly parents, there are ways to find joy and have fun and ways to include everybody in what you're doing. And that how to include people will shift and change over time. But I was so grateful I thought to do that because it was a reminder to me that as we continue to move forward, I get to find ways to include my mom in all of the things that we're doing. And so I hope to share more about my own family, talk in general about families, have amazing guests on to talk about what family means to them, the good, the bad, and the ugly as we move forward. Now, of course, that third pillar is finance. You all knew this one was coming. It's my world. It's what I do. Before you tune me out on this one, just listen for a second. Money's not about numbers. It's actually about freedom. It's about having choices. People always say money can't buy happiness. And I believe that's true. It can't buy happiness, but money gives you choices to do the things that create happiness, that make memories, that create success and achievement. One of the biggest myths I hear is it's too late for me to start. Friend, let me tell you, it is never too late. Yes, the best time to start building your financial future was yesterday, but the second best time, it's today. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Wherever you are, you can start. So start small. Start with what you can. Just start. And we'll continue to talk about finance and what it looks like and information that can help you, guide you, educate you, but also questions that you have, information you want to know about, or even just stories of different guests' journeys on their own financial plan. The next one is fitness. So let's shift gears there. And I don't mean just hitting the gym. I'm talking about overall wellness, your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. Over the past year, if you've listened to my previous podcast, this last month, I did a series that was led off by me telling my own story over the last year of taking back control and prioritizing myself and my health and my wellness so that I could be the person I wanted to be, but also so that I could show up as my best self for everybody else. You see, I had tabled myself, not intentionally, but from necessity, it seemed like. But what I didn't realize is by doing that during the time that we were shifting, moving my parents here, and everything that entailed, over a few weeks, a few months, I started to forget about prioritizing myself until last year I hit a point where I thought, I don't have anything else. And in that moment, I knew if I didn't focus on me, I was going to have nothing to give anybody else. I'll be honest. There were days, especially in the beginning of that journey, I didn't feel like moving, but I knew I needed to. It's progress over perfection. That's what keeps us going. It's not about setting a goal and being perfect day after day after day. It's about setting a goal and taking steps, sometimes very small steps, sometimes gaps between those steps, but moving in the direction of caring for yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually so that you can be the best of what you are, especially for those you care about most. Here's the truth. When we care for our bodies, we have more energy to care for everything and everyone else in our own lives. All right, let's get to the fun. Y'all, I love to have a good time. I think most people love to have a good time, but a good time is different for all of us. I want to talk about those fun things that happen, those ridiculous things that happen, those crazy experiences and stories that make us laugh, because the truth is, life is punching us in the face more times than not. We need to focus on having fun or recognizing fun, silly, crazy, hilarious things as they show up just to have a good laugh. Sometimes sit back and think all I can do is laugh because the other alternative is falling apart in a rough situation. And so if we focus on the ways to recognize the fun in our lives, it can help us navigate through some of the challenging times. And it can just remind us to find that joy and remain grateful that we have it, even when it's coming in very small doses. I believe that wealth isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in joy. And I talked about that a little bit in the finance section. For me, sometimes it looks like laughing at myself, which I do a lot because I have a tendency to do some dumb things or silly things, whatever. I also have a tendency to not be very coordinated at times, which I played sports growing up. So it's kind of a weird thing. But just last night, I was getting up to move from one chair in the living room to another. I had my iPad in my hand and I was trying to balance that and a drink in my other hand. And I literally tripped over a tiny section of the leg of the chair, slamming myself into the door frame to the next room, smacking my legs on the other corners of the chairs, and everybody just stopped. And they're like, "Are you okay?" No, I wasn't in that moment. I guarantee I'm going to have a few bruises from that. But then I just started laughing. I just started laughing because I thought, holy smokes, that hurt, but that's 100% me. Tripping over myself, running into things, just, it's life, right? I love to share funny little stories about everyday life because they do take me back and remind me to be grateful. Yeah, last night, tripping, falling into all that stuff, it hurt. But also, I was sitting there looking around the room after, trying not to cry and thinking, how blessed am I? The whole room was full of family that I love, and we were spending time together. Those are the kind of things we're going to talk about in all the future episodes. In my house, you might even catch a Texas lawn debate between me and my boyfriend. He is the lawn whisperer and he's got it down to a science, and I don't get it. I don't get how people can be that focused or obsessed on their lawn, but that is his thing. And we have a beautiful lawn. It is nowhere near perfect in his opinion. There's so much work to do, but it's beautiful. And he takes the time to do that. But some of our debates and conversations are actually pretty hilarious about that. Then, of course, there's always the conversations about how many Amazon boxes are showing up for me. And next thing you know, 2 days later, Amazon stops by and drops 3 boxes off for him. Or even my dad. And I'm like, "Dad, what are you buying?" And trust me, my dad buys some pretty silly stuff. But you guys, those are the things that happen in everyday life. And those are the things that we have funny conversations about in our house. And hopefully you do too. Hopefully the different fun, crazy, goofy things that get talked about on Chat with Nat help you to stay grounded, connected, and gives you something to look forward to in future episodes, or maybe to hear how something turns out, or maybe it just reminds you of something silly in your own life that gives you a moment to stop, reminisce, and just kind of chuckle over that. Because as I mentioned, at the end of the day, life is lifing all the time. If we don't pause to find the joy, the fun in our lives, we are going to be miserable because that, it seems like, is so much easy to find. So we're going to focus, as I mentioned, on all of those pillars: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. This is what conversations we're going to have here on Chat with Nat. The real talk, the real stories, and practical wisdom that you can use in your everyday life. My hope is that every time you listen, you'll leave feeling encouraged, inspired, and maybe even challenged to take one small step in your own journey. Maybe even leave with your tummy hurting a little because you laughed so hard along with us. Now, I would love to hear from you as I go in this new direction. I want to know which of these 5 pillars you want me to dive into first, or you want to hear most about, or maybe you're struggling most with, or have questions about. Is it your faith? Is it family dynamics? Is it your finances, fitness, going on your own journey around that? Or is it the fun antidotes going on in your own life that you would be willing to share with me? And I can share them on the show anonymously if you prefer, but I would love to get questions from you guys that I can answer in the episodes, to get stories from you guys that I can share, so that it really does feel like you have a connection with a great friend when you listen to Chat with Nat. Reach out and let me know. In the show notes, there is a link where you can reach out to me and send me information or ask questions. Now, as I wind down this episode, and you'll get used to this, I'm going to be closing it out with a hot take for the week. And this week, that hot take is stop forcing yourself into boxes you've already outgrown. We've all done it. We've stayed in the jobs, the relationships, or even routines just because they feel safe. Even though deep down, we knew we were being called to somebody or to something different. And here's the truth. That restlessness that you're feeling, that's not confusion. It's alignment trying to get your attention. I've found so many times that when I was pushed or pulled in a certain direction, the more I resisted it, the more of a pull or a push I would feel. And oftentimes I didn't understand where that was coming from, or it became a distraction and a frustration. But I look back now and I think, man, so many times, and you can call it even your intuition. I felt like I knew something or a direction I needed to go and resisted against it. And it kept showing up and kept showing up. And I didn't move myself, but God moved me, or he moved other people to make room for it, or the universe moved me, whatever it is that you believe. You get pushed in the direction if you don't take the steps on your own. So if you feel yourself being nudged in a new direction, don't ignore it. That's where your breakthrough is. Wealth, peace, joy, purpose, they don't come from clinging to what used to fit. They come from stepping boldly into the space you're being called into, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Don't confuse being comfortable with being in the right place. Oh, let me say that again for the people in the back. Don't confuse being comfortable with being in the right place. Sometimes our greatest accomplishments are outside the fear, the hesitation. Sometimes the very shift we're resisting is the one that's going to unlock everything you've been praying for. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. This is just the beginning of Chat with Nat, and I can't wait to keep having conversations that truly count, not just for me, but for each of you that take the time to listen to these episodes. Until next time, take care of yourself, and don't forget, make room for joy.